Welcome to the Joy the Lord Show. We are here today to tell you more. Welcome to the Joy the Lord Show. We are here today to tell you more. This is the Joy of the Lord Show. We are here again with Pastor Clarence Jackson, and he has a tremendous testimony of healing and God performing miracles in his family's life, in his daughter's life. And we're going to talk to him today. And I want you to get a friend, because this is about the healing power of God and what God can do if you hold on and believe and don't let go of the unchanging hand of God. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a great thing. So we're talking to Pastor Clarence Jackson today, and he's going to be talking to us today about the testimony that has changed so many lives.
Yeah.
And I love his stories on Facebook. I love every time Jay gets a win.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me. So I want you to walk us through first of hearing that your daughter has stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And how did it take for you and Dee? What did you feel at the time? And walk us through that process of going through all the way through.
So we were in a season where we were in the best season of our lives. Financially, we were more stable than we had ever been before, making more money than we ever made before. We had just bought our dream home. Church was going well. Everything was going well. Kids were healthy. And it was a beautiful Sunday morning when we got up, and Dee noticed swelling on our daughter's back. And we thought that maybe she had got bitten by something, and so we wasn't really too worried about it at the time. But when Dee, just kept thinking about it, and she started doing the WebMD, and
like we all do.
yeah, right. And I did it too. And the WebMD said, if that swelling is combined with swelling on the lymph nodes around the neck, it's probably cancer. And I immediately put that phone down because I said, there's no way that this could be possible. Because I looked at her neck and there was some swelling there too. And so I walked in the bathroom, getting ready to get dressed for church, and I saw Dee on the floor, and she was in the closet crying. And there's no doubt in my mind that she had saw the same thing I saw. And so I went in and I talked to her. I said, look, I know what you just saw. I said, I saw that too. I said, but I don't believe that. I said, we're going to believe God. We're going to get up. We're going to go to church. We're going to have a good day. And we're going to take her to the doctor, and all's going to be well. Got up, went to church. And to make a long story short, we went to the doctor. We went to the doctor around 1 o'clock. We ended up staying to the doctor around 11 o'clock. They did all kind of tests. And this doctor came in and who had very little bedside manners. I don't blame him, he's a doctor, he does it all the time. And he walks in, he says, your daughter has cancer, and we have an ambulance waiting on her to take her to Shands. And that moment was just a dark space. Like, I didn't even believe what I just heard. And I'm gonna tell you something, it was almost good that we both became numb. Like, we were numb to the feeling of it, right?
Yes.
Because I think I would have lost my mind. Like, looking at it in retrospect, I would have lost my mind. But he told us that he had cancer, and I said, I just want to take her home tonight. And he said, no, sir, you can't take her home tonight. And they got on that ambulance that night, and I followed behind in the car, and we ended up staying there for about 14 days when we got the official diagnosis that she had stage 4 neuroblastoma. Wow. Yeah, her life was in jeopardy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So from that time, you had to walk through what we know now as a process.
Yeah.
Can you speak to starting out in the process where your faith was? And because I want to encourage someone that's going through a process of cancer, going through the process of being coronavirus, and speaking the word over your family, speaking the word over Jay, going through that time of holding on. And I know, I'm thinking about if I was in your situation, telling people what's going on in your family.
Right. Well, for me, to be honest with you, I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for a long time. But the first thought in my mind wasn't faith. The first thought in my mind wasn't reading scripture or praying or anything else. The first thing that happened was it was unbelief, disbelief, right? And then it was anger, anger toward God, right? It was anger toward God. Like, how in the world can you allow this to happen? Out of all we've done to help people, this girl ain't did nothing. Like, why didn't you get me? You know, so it was that phase. It wasn't for us. I'm gonna talk for me. For me, it wasn't that space. It was a bunch of crying. I couldn't go 15 minutes without having to walk to the bathroom and just break down. But during one of my breakdowns, and there were times in the early stages of this diagnosis that I honestly said, you know, if I don't wake up in the morning, like, it's totally fine with me. I wouldn't say that I was suicidal. That's not where I was. But if I didn't wake up for some odd reason, I would have been okay, because I didn't feel I didn't feel the value of life. Like, what is life? If this is life, like, what is it? And so when you get to that phase, there's a bunch of crying. But D, man, she pulled me.
Wow.
She pulled me. And here's what she said. She said, we need you.
Wow.
She said, I've seen you go in hospital rooms and lay your hands on people and they recover. And she reminded me, she said, you remember that time when the family got called into this hospital in Mariana because Deanna was on her last legs, and you went in there and you prayed and you walked out and you told them not to call the funeral home, and she's still alive today? She reminded me of my faith.
Glory.
You need people in your life because you're not going to always feel like it.
Yeah.
You need people in your life that's going to push you back to the place where you know you need to be.
Yes.
But then she gave me an assignment. She gave me an assignment.
What's the assignment?
She said, I want you to go read the story of Job again. She said, because she says, why did Job get healed? And I told her, I said, because he was faithful. And she says, no, because, you know, he said, though you may slay me, yet without trust. She says, no, that's not why he was healed. And I read it, and when I got the answer was, Job was healed when he prayed for his friends.
Yes.
His healing came when he prayed for his friends. And so she challenged me. She said, you're a man of God. You're a powerful man of God. I know who you are. I've seen you pray for people. Yeah. She said, I want you to leave this room. And she says, I want you to go around this hospital and I want you to pray for people.
Glory to God.
And I left that room every day. And I went to different children's rooms and I began to pray for them. And it began to change my situation.
Wow.
It began to change our situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like tears are about to come out of my eyes, because it's the power of having a husband and wife praying for each other and pushing each other.
Yes.
So through this process of going back and forth, because I've seen a lot of times you would have to go, come, somebody would have to stay.
Right.
What is the importance of friends and your circle being tight, your circle speaking faith?
Right.
Can you talk about faith talking?
Yeah.
And confessing.
Yes. Well, when you go through a difficult time like we went through, I'm not gonna say this happens for everybody, but typically, you know, you'll find that people who you thought were like close to you, they're really not that close. Your true circle really emerges in times like this. And there were people we never heard from.
Yes.
During this entire time, and I don't blame them,
because they don't know what to say.
Some people just didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to be a blessing. And I'm not talking. When I say be a blessing, I'm not talking about financial or anything. That's not what it was about. But you start to realize that your family is truly your circle. Not all these Facebook friends or Instagram followers, however that thing works, right? But the core, and D and I became closer than we ever had. And we made a pact with each other, because I had a hard time listening to doctors. Matter of fact, when the doctors would come in the room, I'd walk out. And they'd say, Mr. Jackson, would you just stay and talk? I'm like, no, I don't want to hear anymore. I know she got stage 4 cancer. I'm praying about that, all that other stuff. So D and I came up with a pact. The pact was, she told me, she says, you deal with the faith, I'll deal with the facts. You never have to talk to another doctor again.
Wow. Wow.
And I didn't.
Wow.
I never talked to another doctor again.
Wow.
After the diagnosis, I never talked to another doctor again until much, much later in the process. She handled the weight of sitting down with those doctors every single day, listening to them tell her all this devastating news about our daughter. but she gave me an assignment, which was, I need you to be more private than you've ever been.
Yes.
And that was how that team, we became teammates in that realm.
Yeah, so during this time where you're prayerful and Dee is talking to the doctors, how was she affected during that time? And did it test her, or was she holding on? She was like very strong. Both of you are very strong. How did it affect her as a mother?
You know, Dee has a super quality, which is she's unshaken by a whole lot of stuff. And so if she was shaken, I almost never saw it. I almost never saw it throughout the whole process.
Wow.
And so I was blessed because here I am, was supposed to be, you know, viewed as the tough one or the strong one.
Right.
And I was the one who needed encouragement.
Yes.
And so she had a double weight, which was to make sure that baby is always happy and always smiling.
Yes.
And also make sure that I was, you know, upbeat and get back into my rightful place, you know, in our home and for this particular healing. So I know it affected her greatly, but you talk about grace, like God graced that lady with strength beyond measure. She was able to smile through all of that the whole time, and she never looked like what she was going through.
At all.
No.
And she's beautiful.
Never.
You just, her spirit is just beautiful. It just says strength all over her.
She would wake up. She would wake up in the morning, you know, do her hair, do her makeup. And she would get dressed like she was going to work.
Yes.
And she would get Jay dressed. And man, she just talked to Jay, and she just tell Jay. She said, just because you don't feel well, don't mean you don't have to look good.
Wow.
And man, she would get her dress and make her beautiful. Even when her hair started to fall out, she would still do the same thing. Made her beautiful and made her feel beautiful. So Dee had a super strength. She still got a super strength.
Yes, she does.
To where, you know, I know it did bother her. It phased her, but I couldn't tell that. I saw strength. I saw sheer strength through the whole process.
Wow, and I think it's amazing because I would see the pictures.
Yeah.
I would see every time you put up a testimony.
Yeah.
Talk about the power of just a testimony of testifying about Jay and seeing it touch other people's lives while you're still waiting for the bell to ring, because I saw the bell ring. And talk about the power of the testimony and the process of walking it through and holding on till the end. Yeah.
Well, we didn't go public with what was going on with Jay for months. Okay. We kept it. It was just a family matter. We didn't tell too many people. But remember, I shared in our last segment that we prayed. We prayed this prayer. Said, God, let your will be done. Yes. And we didn't pray for healing. We said, let your will be done. But at the end of that prayer, I tagged onto that prayer. I says, and God, if you choose to heal her, I said, she's going to be a testimony to the world. And so what happened was, we kept quiet, and Jay did a scan. And that's when that doctor came back and said 90% of the cancer was gone. Miraculously gone. I wrote about it on Facebook. That was the first testimony I gave about it because I was so nervous that day. And the doctor came in. I was laying down. I was sleeping. I never talked to the doctor. Never talked to the doctor. But because I was laying there asleep, the doctor just came in, and she was so happy that I just stayed there laying down, acting as if I was asleep. And that lady said, "You're not gonna believe this." She said 90% of the cancer is gone. And I woke up and I said, "What did you say?" She said, "The cancer just disappeared." She said, "We've never seen it before." Glory to God. Typically, a cancer like that would shrink only 40%. Right. With chemo. Hers shrunk 90%. But when the surgeon walked in, he says, "It's better than that." It didn't shrink 90%. It shrunk 96%. And the cancer that was in her abdomen that was the size of a grapefruit, he says, now it's the size of a grape. Wow. Wow. He said, now it's the size of a grape. Wow. And I had promised God, God, if you do this. So even before the miracle was complete, we had seen him do so much that we had started to give the testimony. And now let me tell you the power of a testimony. When you give the testimony about what God is doing, you obligate him to finish it. Glory to God. When we started talking, when we started talking that talk about what he was doing, we was obligated. I wouldn't worry no more because I had put God's name on the line.
Glory.
It was no longer about me. It was no longer about D. It really wasn't even no longer about Jane anymore. This was about God.
Yes.
I'm like, wait a minute, we bragging on you like this?
Yes.
You ain't gonna fail.
Eh,
No, that's what a testimony does.
Yes.
A testimony is like a testimony is like you making God sign a promissory note.
Yes.
If you,
I love it. Yes, that's right.
Go ahead and say it.
Yes.
I told you that I'm gonna say it.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell the people that
Yes.
you did this.
Yes.
And I watch this. Before he finished it, we started talking about it.
Glory.
And and anytime we had a setback, we'll always go back to the testimony. It's like, no, we're not worried about it.
Yes.
God's gonna do that.
Yes.
There's no way.
Yes.
There are people in Africa and Germany and all these other places where our story was being told. There's no way God's gonna let all those people down.
No.
This God's baby, he gonna finish it. And man, he finished it.
Yes, he did.
He finished the work.
Yeah.
So your testimony obligates God.
Yes, it does. You know, you made me think about the centurion that said to speak the word.
Yes, yes.
My servant is sick, but all you got to do is speak the
Just
word
speak the word.
only.
That's
God's word will come to pass.
That's right.
And I want to talk about the feeling of when you all got to ring the bell.
Yeah.
And that day specifically, because it was huge.
Yeah.
When she walked out, talk about coming almost to the end of it. How was that miracle power of God healing cancer and bringing her through? How did you feel that day?
Well, truthfully, it was kind of anticlimactic because you go through this whole process, and of course the bell ringing is what everybody waits for.
Yes.
But man, before the bell ringing, we saw God move every week.
Glory.
We heard doctors say the cancer had shrunk. 96%.
Yes.
We heard the doctor go into surgery saying this surgery might take 8 hours because the cancer is even though it's small, it's attached to her adrenal gland. It's on her kidney, and so we got to be intricate about it. And say we may not get it all, and then to hear him call and say we got it all, and then later that day, that's like winning the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Right? That's like, oh, you said what? We got it all. And then he comes to the room later and he says, let me tell you something. There's something special about this girl. He said, when we opened her up, he said, it took us longer to open her up than it did to get this cancer out. He said, when we opened her up, he said that cancer was just sitting up on top, not attached to anything. It was almost like that cancer was reaching up saying, get me out of this girl.
Hey.
He said, we just scooped it out and we closed her back up. It wasn't attached to nothing. You understand? See, when you go through moments like that and you witness the amazing power of God, when you get to the bell ringing, it's like we done scored a touchdown.
Over and over again.
You know what I'm talking about? Man, we done scored a touchdown before. So it's a celebration, but for us, it just was
because so much had already happened.
Yes.
Talk about the miracles that God performed, because he performed many miracles during this walk. And I wish you need to follow him on Facebook, because it's powerful what happens in someone's life when you believe God. And a lot of you are believing God for healing. And I'm telling you, God is able to heal you. So talk about the miracles that you see so many.
Yes.
And talk about the miracle working power.
Listen. So we saw so many miracles happen during that period of time. And when I talk to people about having faith, I mean exactly what I say. Like, if you believe, God can do anything. Yes. He can do anything. And there was one particular story, not a story, the truth of when Dee told me to go pray. And there was this young lady who was actually from my hometown. She was following our story. And she reached out and asked, could I come and pray for her daughter? And not only was her daughter in that hospital with heart issues, but her niece was in the hospital with heart issues. Wow. And they had been in that hospital for months, and she could not leave until she received the heart. And man, we prayed for those two girls, and miraculously, but even before she got the heart, her oxygen level started to rise. So much so that they would allow them to go home on the weekend. And then she finally did get a new heart. It was things like that we faced. As it relates to Jay, when you talking about a child that had cancer from her shoulder blade down to her pelvis, down to her knees, and you're talking about how God just miraculously shrink that. I tell people, you can't tell me anything about what God can't do.
Yes.
And you talking about a headache.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You talking about a bill.
Yes.
You talking about getting rejected for a home loan. No. If God can do that type of stuff, man, God can do anything.
Yes.
And we saw it up close.
Wow.
We saw it up close.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think it's so powerful that, you know, when he's the God of the impossible.
Yes.
I was thinking about Abraham and Sarah,
Yeah.
when Abraham's body was considered dead.
Right.
And God told him, you about to birth nations.
Yes.
And he said, there's no way, but he said, is there anything too hard for God?
Yes.
And we have to know in our lives with faith that there's nothing too hard for God.
That's right.
And we have to just say it the way he said it. Abraham was accounted to him for righteousness
Yes.
because he believed God.
Right.
Talk about believing God. And I know we start out, you know, when we first get the doctor's report, like whose report are you going to believe?
Yes.
But talk about holding on and believing God when it looks like the body is dead.
Yes.
When it looks like everything is coming against you.
Right.
When it looks like, you know what, are we really going to come out of this hospital?
Right.
But God is saying, you're
Right.
coming out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Believe it or not, holding on, holding on
Yes.
is a lot. It's a lot easier than many people think. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
A lot of people think that, you know, there are things that certain people say, I'll never be able to do that. Don't ever say what you're not able to do. You never know what you're not able to do until you're forced to do it.
Yeah.
You see, if holding on is your only option, holding on becomes easy. That's all we had.
And
We didn't have anything but hope. We didn't have anything but faith. There wasn't a pill that was going to do this. This was going to be a process.
yeah.
And so for us, like, what do? We let go? No, we wouldn't let go. And what God did was God just strengthened our hand. And we were going through the most difficult time. See, to hold on, God got to strengthen your hand.
Yes.
We didn't have weak hands during this process. God strengthened us, man. And so when people would, you know, who finally knew our story, and they walk up to us and they would say, "Oh, we're so sorry." I'm like, "No, stop. Don't be sorry. It's okay."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so God strengthened us, man, and that's what would happen. You see, Paul prayed 3 times for that thorn to be removed. And what God says, no, I'm not going to remove the thorn. See, a lot of times we lose our mind because God don't answer the prayer that we want him to answer. And here's the deal, that if God don't answer the prayer that you think you need him to answer, that means that he knows you can handle what you're praying for him to remove out of your life. He says, listen, he told Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. And what happened with Jay was, if he would have gave Jay to anybody else in the world, they probably would have lost their mind. But he gave he gave Jay to parents like me and Dee.
Yes.
And we didn't get weaker in the process.
Yes.
We got stronger in the process.
Yes.
And that grace you're talking about, man, God graced us where I was able to preach every Sunday.
Hey, go.
I was able to preach every Sunday.
It didn't
Dee
stop.
was able to go to work every day.
Wow.
Nothing stopped. And to this day, I tell people, I wish I can tell this story with more emotion. I wish, it'll probably sell more books, it'll probably sell more TV ratings. I can't cry about it because I don't feel like what I've been through.
Hey.
I don't look like what I've been through. You're right? We've been through the fire, but we don't smell like smoke.
Hey, glory.
Yeah, we've been through mud, and there's no mud on our shoes.
Yeah.
And so we know we went through it, but we are so far detached from the emotions of it because God strengthened us in it. And no matter what's going on in your life, God will strengthen you beyond ways you thought you were imagining. So there's things that don't bother me. It'll change your life. Let me tell you 2 things that it did for me, and I know I'm talking a lot.
Oh, no, I talking what? Because somebody needs to hear this.
Two things that happened for me. I learned how to value the people that I love most.
Yes.
When Jay got sick, I was angry with my son for not taking out the garbage. I was angry with my son for not taking out the garbage. And I had made up my mind, you know, that, you know what, I'm not going to even say nothing to him. And I didn't talk to him for 2 days. But in between the time that I talked to my son for not taking out the garbage, we end up in the worst situation of our lives.
Yes.
How selfish of me.
Yes.
It taught me how to value the people that you love most.
Yes.
And it also taught me how to value every single day. Our lives were turned upside down just like that. We went to bed one night and everything was perfect. We opened up our eyes the next morning and our whole world, it was like somebody dropped a bomb in our lives and just tore everything apart.
Yes.
And so value time.
Yes.
Don't wait till tomorrow. If you can do it today, do it today. If you're gonna want to take a vacation, go take that vacation.
Yes.
Don't no,
Yeah.
you plan it. Oh, let's do it in 2 years from now. You might not have 2 years from now.
Right.
You might still be here, but your life could be in such a mess
Yes.
that going on a vacation is the last thing you think about.
Yes.
So man, I learned how to value the people I love most, and I learned how to value time, and I do that today. I do what I want to do.
Yes.
I enjoy my time.
Yeah, you know, I went through a very hard struggle, and out of that struggle, God humbled me, and to the point where I cried so much that nobody can make me cry anymore.
Yeah.
And He gave me that joy, and I learned that you have to appreciate every day.
That's right.
You have to tell people you love them now, because tomorrow is not promised.
Right.
I believe in taking every day by the horn.
Right.
And staying positive for
Right.
me. And for me, it's just like, you know what, God, you gave me another chance.
Yes.
I'm not going to waste this chance.
Right.
Help me to do better.
Right.
And sometimes it's through the struggle.
Right.
That God teaches us, you know what, don't take anything for granted.
Yes.
And I want you to speak to someone who's going through a struggle, who's believing God for a healing miracle, and seeing that God did it in his life. God did it in Jay's life. God did a great thing. Speak to someone who's going through a process right now. Someone might have corona. Someone might be diabetes, heart conditions.
Yes.
Speak to that person that needs to hold on through the process.
Man, I got a perfect way to end this particular interview. When I was going through that difficult time early on in the process, there was a little boy. He was just running around and he was chasing lizards. And his mama just was like, snatching him saying, "Come here, boy, stop chasing those lizards." And I'm sitting there thinking to myself like, man, you are so blessed. I wish my daughter was down here chasing lizards, right? And so, but it just blessed me to see that child, and he had on an armband, and it gave me hope because I said, and I'm new at this, right? So I didn't know what his armband meant. I'm thinking that he was in the hospital. So I'm like, if he's out here doing this, my daughter's gonna be out here doing this one day too.
Yes.
I ran back upstairs to the room and I told Dee, I just met this little boy who undoubtedly got some type of issue, but he was outside running, and I know Jay is gonna run. And Dee said, when you see them again, you need to tell them that they inspired you. And man, when I went downstairs one day to get some lunch, I saw the lady and the little boy again. But, and I stopped him. I stopped him and I told her how it blessed me, to see that little boy running around. And she said something that just turned everything around for me. She said, well, he's not the one who was in the hospital. We're just visiting his sister. I said, "Oh, you visiting his sister?" And she says, "Yes." She says, "Yes, she's 12 years old, but she'll never get out. She'll be here for the rest of her life. There's nothing else they can do." As heartbreaking as that was for me to hear, as inspirational as it was for me to look at that boy and think he was the reason I'd be inspired,
Yes.
I was further inspired by the fact that here I am crying, and my daughter has a treatment plan. And this lady's daughter don't even have a treatment plan. I said, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna stop complaining. And I'm about to tell God, thank you.
Yes.
Because we got a plan. We could be in a situation where there's no hope. We could be in a situation where it's just all lost. And I know we talk about not comparing yourself to another person, but no. I believe it's healthy sometimes to put yourself in some other people's shoes, because there are people who would give an arm and a leg. Even as bad as you think your life might be, that lady would have gave an arm and a leg if she could have my testimony. And here I am not wanting my testimony. And I tell people, listen, I'm going to tell you out there, no matter what's going on in your life, learn how to appreciate and thank God for what it is, because it could be worse. It could be worse. There are people who want your testimony. Don't you let anybody else take that testimony. You keep your testimony, and you keep believing that God is going to turn it around for you.
Yes, and you got to know that God is going to turn it around. And this excited me with Pastor Clarence Jackson, because God is still a God that heals. And God is still performing miracles today. And I declare to you that signs and wonders are about to happen in this new year of 2021. God is still going to do it. All you have to do is hold on, speak the word over your life, and trust God and believe God that if he put you in it, he is able to bring you out. And that he's about to do a great and mighty thing in your life. I thank you, Pastor Clarence Jackson, for the testimony. And I thank God for your life. I thank you for being here with us for the
I'm glad
2
to be
weeks.
here.
And I want someone to know that your change is about to come.
Yes.
That God's about to do it. Get ready, because the joy of the Lord is your strength. Have a great day.